Hello, everyone. How I hope everyone is doing well. Ciao Alberto cara di Italia, molto grazie per vide noi. Did I? No, I messed it up. I'm sorry. I probably messed it up. Okay. Anyways, I love Italian music and opera. Rigoletto is my favorite Italian opera, probably. Okay. La Donna è mobile. And I guess so today we have Ron Placone. Oh, grazie. Okay. Well, so I'm good if I hear it. So if I hear something, I can imitate people, but I can't like read and translate it. So just if you make an audio recording, I can always get it right. It's a weird thing. I can imitate, but I can't. But then when I go to England, people think I'm making fun of them because my accent becomes really proper, and I start asking, "Where's the tube?" But yeah. Anyways, let's see. Whew. Apparently, we are not over this anti-theory people. Oh, before we do that, have you guys heard about AOC's tears? Yeah, she apparently voted. So there was a bill to fund Israel's Iron Dome that may not be functional, but either way, it should not be funded because it's cruel and disgusting. And at first she voted no, but then she cried and changed her vote to present. And her excuse was this big word salad that made absolutely no sense about like holding her community together. Like it literally made no sense. So as Lenin would say, she has officially deserted our side and joined the bourgeoisie. That's what he said about Kautsky. In fact, I've called her Kautsky-Cortez for a while. And this is to be expected because ultimately the problem is that every piece of information, every media, everything you consume, everything you can see is always presented to you from the point of view of Jeff Bezos, literally. And so if you are not trained to see through that hegemony, you will fall for it. And that is exactly why you need to read leftist theory, because the world right now is designed in a way to keep Jeff Bezos and keep him making a lot of money. And when you have a world that's designed for that, you need to learn how to resist that. And the best way is literally reading Lenin. I know. And also, I mean, like, this is how misled people are. People actually think that their task is to elect representatives. And then if you elect enough representatives, you're going to get whatever you want passed. But that is not the way it works. Notice how, even though majority of the Americans support Medicare for all, how hard is it to elect about a handful of representatives who support Medicare for all? Incredibly hard, because the system is not designed to take your input. So it's kind of like an electric. Okay. Janet said they are saying her present vote didn't matter because her present vote didn't matter in terms of whether it passed or not, but it does matter in determining her political courage. If she can't vote no on a bill that really is where it's really like performative, So she doesn't even have the courage to perform for you guys, to be like, oh, I love Palestine. Like she could have performed, and if she doesn't have the courage to perform, how on earth will she get the courage to stand up to power anytime? She won't. That is what matters, is that she does not have courage to stand up to power. And yeah, exactly. So that's what people don't understand, is that it's all about whether or not people are capable of standing to power. Lenin was like a total Chad when he was 25-ish, and he was arrested. From jail, he wrote this letter to the Tsar saying that how he's gonna get rid of them. See, that was totally Chadish. He looked to the Tsars after you may imprison us, and then he did follow through with that letter he wrote in 1895. So yeah, Lenin was a total Chad. And when he was like nobody in St. Petersburg, he stood up to somebody propped up by the British, French, and the Americans all together, the world's biggest superpowers at that time, and this time too. Yeah, so the thing is that if they don't have the courage to stand up to power when there are zero consequences for that, they will not have the courage. They will not suddenly get the courage to stand up to power when there are lots of consequences for that. So that's the thing. So today we're going to be reading two fun pieces, and I was like Google searching one of the pieces to do some annotations, and it was so funny. I had to share this Google search with you. Okay, so the piece of Lenin's that I was searching was Old Problems and the Senile Decay of Liberalism. Look, number 3, I got The Economist, which Lenin mocked as a journal that speaks on behalf of British millionaires. And it's so funny. And they had a hot take about why liberalism is the most successful ideas of the past 400 years. I thought it was just hilarious. So, and I'm like, Google would approve. Lenin would approve of Google, not Google would. What? Yeah. Lenin would not approve. Lenin would have approved of this Google search result. The Grotius paradox. I don't know what that is. Let's see. Anything else? I'm back on TikTok, and I have 2 accounts, LW Lenin and Historically Podcast. And this NATO stan with like 70,000 followers is trying to nuance whether or not Adolf Heusinger was a Nazi. The answer is yes, of course. He was Hitler's chief of staff. And then he was like, oh, but you forgot to mention how he got arrested in 1944. And then I looked up his autobiography written in 1950, and he seemed offended at the idea that he would try to kill Hitler or overthrow Hitler. Wow. You've come a long way from being an Economist subscriber to a Late Nights with Lenin subscriber. Welcome, my friend. Yeah, The Economist is... I swear to God, they mourned for Pinochet for like almost a decade. And I swear, like, I don't know. I can't remember what year Pinochet died, maybe like 97 or 98. But they had pro-Pinochet articles until 2008. It was really pathetic seeing how much they mourned for Pinochet. They kept on crying. They were like, and it was really funny today in Russian class. I don't know. This was the weirdest question. But in Russian class, the thing they asked was, it asked for politicheski obazrivatelь, which means political analyst. Like the question was like, which political analyst you want to meet? And I actually could not. I just was. I mentioned Thomas Friedman, but I could not keep um my head straight to not laugh nonstop. Speaking of Thomas Friedman, he's just out with a new hot take about Afghanistan. So he's like taking, yeah, he is taking a break from his nonstop Saudi royal, what do you call it? Uh, Royal blowjobs. And he's with this like incredibly racist article about have we reshaped the Middle East or have we started to mimic it? Janet will tweet this out to you. Not tweet. I'm sorry. She'll share it in the chat. But it is like the most racist and ridiculous article anyone can pen. And he also makes some hot takes about India, and I'm like, why are you allowed to write? Actually, yeah, you should. Reading The Economist is kind of useful, but they've watered themselves down. What you really need to do is figure out what hedge funders read and read that, because hedge funders are totally psychotic and they don't need any sugarcoating. And so I read some of their trade journals, like the the commodities market trade journals. They're psycho. Like I can't, like you learn about how they're like trying to profit by starving people in Kenya in for like 30 cents or whatever. Hi Gani. Yeah, it is psycho. It's an understatement of how psycho that is. So that's one thing. But yeah, The Economist is like too liberally fied. It's not as exclusive and elite as it needs to gain the right amount of insight. Like you have to read what you have to kind of figure out what what's Henry Kissinger speaks to. Hello, Dimitri Polemikos. Yeah, I'm excited for this episode too. Lenin said, The Economist is a journal that speaks on behalf of British millionaires. Shmoopy Shaboopy, hello again. Yeah, he wrote that in the other piece called Armaments and Capitalism, I think. It's about bourgeoisie philanthropy. Yeah, I will send you the link later. His piece about bourgeoisie philanthropy, which nothing has fundamentally changed. The worst thing about this show is I can't communicate to people who don't know about this show about why it's so important to watch this show. So I'm willing to look for suggestions about Couch, about anyone who can tell me, like, how do I get people to see why this show is relevant? Because you see, if you hadn't, well, okay, I'm just making this up, but it's whatever. If you hadn't read Lenin, you might have been fooled by some nuance cucking, like AOC is playing a 12-sided chess game. Is it 12-dimensional chess? Or whatever it is. And yeah, you won't get fooled by the 12-dimensional chess because Lenin kind of shows you that the cadets or everyone tried to allegedly play 12-dimensional chess, but when it mattered, they all became Tsarist supporters. Who cares? I would make her read about Struve. Okay, Gani asked a really good question. If AOC came on our show, the first thing I would do is I would make her read about Pyotr Struve because he started out as a Marxist in 1890. And then he became a socialist revolutionary in 1902. I believe 1907 he was a cadet. And by the time 1917 came along, he was a czarist. So I would make her read about everything Lenin wrote about Pyotr Struve because that's where she's headed. Yeah. it's hilarious. Like if you follow Pyotr Stroeve, like he goes from strong Marxist to czarist, and he has the most. And you'll see, like Lenin points out, like each time Pyotr Stroeve does bad Z's, Lenin points it out, and Lenin's like, watch out for this guy. He is watering down stuff, or also known as liquidationism. Then he says, watch out for this guy. He's a cadet and he's bringing this two-faced bill that doesn't really do anything. It's just like to make the peasants think that they're going to get land, but they're not getting land because the cadets colluding with the landlords. Okay, it's not one book. It is about 30 different articles that Lenin wrote between 1898 to 1917, where you can follow Pyotr Stroeve. The Mussolini of Russia is a very interesting thing because the Mussolini of Italy would not be the Mussolini of Italy if, like, I believe about 600,000 Tsarist royal soldiers fled to Italy in 1918 or 1919. And then a lot of them became the brown shirts or black shirts. I forgot which one's Italy, black or brown. Yeah, so the Russian exiles were also the second place where a lot of these Russian exiles went was Germany. And yes, and that's how they were able to help form a fifth column and invade Russia in the 1940s. So yes, anything else? Yeah, black shirts. I forgot whether Mussolini's fascists are called black shirts or whether it's Hitler's fascists that are called black shirts. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And oh my God. Oh yeah. Let's see. Do we have anything else to talk about? I guess not. If there's anything you want me to troll, any current events, anything else, like, we'll come back after the interview with the Ron Placone. And yeah. Troll Emma Moore. That can be done after. Send me links. By Emma, we mean Emma Vigilant. Are we still on, Janet?
Give me 1 second. I don't know why I'm having a weird.
No worries. Okay, I can bullshit for. I'm sorry. Did I say bull? Yeah, I can bullshit for longer. Okay.
I'm like trying to add it, and then it's like
no worry. Okay, I will bullshit for longer. Let's see. Oh my God. Fuck. I forgot. Oh no. It did work. Phew. Okay, good. I thought I forgot to allow VK, but it did work. Okay. So let's see. What are we bullshitting about? Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, the hostage exchange. Okay. So you know how Huawei? Okay. So they made up some BS charge in the U.S. about this Huawei executive. Well, so it looks like they released her in exchange for releasing 2 Canadian spies from China. So they did like a hostage exchange. Okay. Stefan Mastromanaco says there's a video about the Russian Civil War by the Great War Channel. It seems to be very, yep, I can debunk it, but I need a link to it because it's hard to, I'm going to go all over the place. So if you can either tweet out a link to me or tweet out tweet out to Janet, I can look through it and try to debunk it. Yeah. And don't trust anybody's mistranslation of, like, what I've noticed is half that, like today on TikTok, somebody said, oh, have you looked at Julia Davis News? She's blocked me, by the way, where she debunks Russian propaganda. Anyways, I asked them for links, and the first one is how Russia is spreading anti-American propaganda. I explained to her why that is ridiculous. Because America has done so many cartoonishly evil things, like kill Afghans for sport, that you don't need to have propaganda. You just need to tell them the truth. Like, there's no reason why you want to discredit yourself by lying about America. You just tell them the truth. Hey, look, Americans have confessed to shooting Afghans for sport. This is what you know about. Let's think about what you don't know about. Oh my God, they killed this Afghan farmer and buried him. Oh my God, they wiped out an entire village in 2011. Like, you don't need to do it. So anyway, that was like the most ridiculous suggestion, is that the truth is so bad that no one ever needs to engage in anti-American propaganda. So that was the first one. And then the second one, it was very suspicious. She claimed that Russians, some random Russian YouTube channel claimed that Trump should have finished off the Democrats. But then right before this, he said this, like he said, "Кажется," which means it seems. And then right before that, he was talking about the Ukraine Donbas crisis. So he was clearly doing an analogy to what it would be like in the US if they behaved the same way Ukraine behaved in Donbas. And so I was like, oh, and then I don't have patience to actually go download the video, then do subtitles, and then do a takedown, because it's not even that big of a deal. But it just goes to show you how whenever it's an enemy country, just like the standards of journalism go out. Like Iran, they'll constantly mistranslate or say stupid things. Russia, China, I don't even think they're capable of accurately. I don't even know what they do with China. Like, they're not. Ian Goodrum, he speaks Chinese, so he'll tell you whenever they really mistranslate crap. Enemy country. Okay, but the one that's really hard for them to do that is Venezuela, because too many people speak Spanish. So that's okay. And with this, here's Lenin, Kat, and Nadezhda, his wife.
Hold on one second. I'm just trying. So for some reason, it is not letting me do Ron's video, but I just wanted to try a little one. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do Ron's video now.
Okay. If not, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick it. I mean, I did it before you even came on, and it was working.
So when you tested it, it worked back then.
Yeah, and now it just doesn't want to open.
So today we have Ron Placone, who has his own show, and he's a comedian. So Ron, from what I gather, you grew up in West Virginia. Is that right?
No, that's not. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Why did I think West Virginia? I don't know.
I mean, they are kind of close, but I don't know how you got West Virginia.
Okay, I must have not been listening very carefully. I'm sorry.
I mean, I've been to West Virginia, if that helps. I remember when I was on your show and I totally thought I made up a state. And then I'm like, I was so happy to realize Idaho existed. Oh, well, I think at one point when we did that game show, West Virginia was the answer to one of the questions. And then I think I might have had an anecdote that was sort of West Virginia centric. But no, I'm not from there. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. I'm from Pittsburgh, which is close to West Virginia, but not the same place.
And I know that you do comedy tours all over. And today I saw this tweet where you said, lesser evil is broke. And what is woke? I forgot. Let me check your tweet. It's really funny.
Oh, yeah. It was just that. Yeah, that thing that people do where they're like, one is broke, one is quote woke or whatever. And I had one for that.
Yeah. For me, and ironically, underneath that, Janet, I'm trying to send this to you. This was the response, and it's so perfect because you are coming here. Somebody responded.
Yeah.
So this seems like a great place. But what I remember seeing you a lot on the Jimmy Dore show, and what I really liked about what you did was you kind of were able to kind of figure out how a lot of this was just utter nonsense, and the Democrats don't really want to do anything useful. Were you always leftist like this, or were you ever like a Democratic centrist-ish person, or what was your journey to left?
I was always like leftist in principle, like as soon as I was awake politically, because I kind of went from zero to Noam Chomsky right away because of, the Iraq war. That was kind of what radicalized me. But politically, like as far as like strategically, I've gotten a little more, like kind of, I don't know if radical is the right way to put it, but I've become a little more, like just the status quo can't stand over the past 5 years. Like when I first started waking up politically, I never felt like, oh, the Democrats are great, but I was a little more like, well, I guess it's the Democrats or the Republicans. And I think the Democrats are, want some of the world that I want to see, or they're closer to it than the Republicans. So I guess I'll vote for them. And then I feel like in 2016, the mask was really taken off, where it's like, oh, they actually hate the left more than they hate Republicans. And we're stuck with this status quo where we have two parties. One is a literal neo-fascist party. One is a neoliberal party, which, by the way, neoliberalism leads to neo-fascism. They are pretty much, it's a volley between the two of them. Yep. That's our system. And they have the same freaking owners. So the point of my tweet was basically, whenever I hear people, jerking each other off about the lesser evil, which is exactly what it is at this point, I think they're having the wrong conversation. It would be so much productive where instead of jerking off over the lesser evil, people instead had the conversation of these two Wall Street owned parties aren't different enough. And that's why nothing ever changes.
Yeah, this is really funny because I'll send it to you I'll send it to you via email after we're done. But we already read this piece. But Lenin has a really funny piece about lesser evilism where he makes fun of it. He's like, the only way. It's really funny. But we already read this with Tina, so I wish we had saved it for you. But you're right. They do a tango. I call it, they're not oppositional, but they both have their role. You know how like in tango, one person's supposed to step forward, the other's back. Yeah. And that's what they do, a tango.
See, I like to call it like a volley, but we're the ping pong ball.
That's even better.
It's just this neoliberalism, neo-fascist, and they're trying to keep the volley going. They don't actually want to like outdo the other one. They're just like, let's just keep this volley going as long as we can. And we're the freaking ping pong ball.
That's a good analogy. So they're just like they're not even trying to win, but they're hitting it at each other.
I think the Republicans want to win, and that's their first priority. I think the Democrats winning is secondary because, who can more overtly just do what the donors want? So I think it's like with Democrats, it's like, well, we're supposed to be under this guise of being for working people, although, our owners are the same as the Republicans. So our first priority is making sure that donors are still happy. If we can do that and beat a Republican or two, great. If not, the gravy train keeps rolling. Whereas Republicans, they're like, well, we don't have to be subtle about anything. We're for Wall Street and we make no qualms about it. So we can prioritize winning a little bit more.
Yeah. And, that's what I noticed. Like this week, they just made up this parliamentarian thing that you could, you don't even have to follow the rules because it's totally advisory.
You just
and it's ridiculous. I mean, and like for me, it's literally the same tango, and they keep wanting to. I don't know. And then the thing is that it's like we don't have that much time if we take climate change seriously, but they're not going to do anything because it's not in their best interest to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I take a little bit of solace in knowing that climate change is a worldwide problem because, like, I do think some other countries are doing some great things. And I think they will end up leading and they'll drag the United States along kicking and screaming. That's my hope. That's my hope. And that's what, I think we all got to try to fight for. And we got to try to do as much as we can, domestically and elsewhere, because I mean, the alternative is just being like, oh, well, let's just throw up our arms and we'll all be dead in 10 years. And that doesn't sound good to me. So, I'm certainly not like, oh, let's just throw up our arms, but I'm also not going to be naive to think that the United States will lead. I hope I'm proven wrong. I sincerely hope I eat these words in 5 years, but I doubt I will. I know I won't. I wish I would, though. I really wish I would.
Oh, okay. So I kind of read the Council for Foreign Relations climate change plans, and they don't really have a climate change plan other than starting a new Cold War with China, who's actually doing something useful. And so it's really bad. But we, of course, have to kind of understand that they don't want to plan on doing anything. So whenever they concern troll or have propaganda out with like coup propaganda, we just need to fight it.
Well, China's doing some good things. Denmark's doing some pretty impressive things. Sweden, Norway. So there are some like bits and pieces of hope out there. But yeah, I mean, it's, when you kind of look at like the world and where we're heading, it's a little, it's discouraging to put it gently.
Yeah. Well, like I said, but the thing is that a lot of people, I guess, we have seen this kind of in everywhere, where a lot of people just don't have an idea of like what's wrong, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that is slowly changing, because now it really is at our doorstep. I mean, you can't ignore it anymore when, the floods are happening, in your town, when there's fires everywhere and it becomes a regular thing. I mean, we have one coast that is completely flooded, another that is on fire. And there's other things happening around the world. So I think that, a lot of people are coming to grips with the fact that this is a dire situation that needs immediate action. But so far it's mostly been lip service. I mean, even Joe Biden, I mean, he gives it very nice lip service. He does say the catastrophe that it is, but then he doesn't actually do anything.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm not entirely sure that Joe Biden is fully knows what he's doing.
He's not. No, he's not. I mean, and I was not suggesting otherwise. He's not completely there, but he does, read whatever people wrote for him. And, when he talks about climate change, he does say things like, it's here, it's happening now, we need to act bold. He does give that lip service. It's just a press release. But yeah, I mean, does he really grasp the magnitude of what he's reading? I doubt it. And, his whole idea for 2050, that's a nice way of just saying, I'm going to kick the can down the road. Because, let's be real, he'll be dead and gone before the shit really hits the fan. And I think a lot of other people know that, and they just don't care. And when I say they, I mean the powers that be.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what they're hoping for, but often I just think they're wanting to hold on. I'm having I just finished my Russian class and I'm having an N confusion, which I do. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. What happens is that the American English H looks like the Russian N, and I just kind of was trying to type Lenin, and I was having like an N confusion where I would like not get the N.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you start speaking Russian, I got to break it to you, I'm not going to be able to understand it.
No, I won't. But what's really funny is that liberals are always, they don't change like in the past 100 years. And so right now the only thing is like finding which piece where Lenin makes fun of liberals we should read. There's one we should read it. It's a small one. We should read it just because of the title. It applies to Joe Biden. So I'll just let you be surprised by the title.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Just look at the title.
All right. So I click this and then I read it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Should I start now?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. So the cadets are the Constitutional Democratic Party and from Tsarist Russia. And 9 out of 10 times, if you just change the word cadets to Democratic Party, it applies to America.
Okay.
So cadets were the liberals, and the Octobrists were the big, like the totally psycho landlords, like who had the debt squad. They were the Republicans, basically.
Okay.
So, and the Tsar in 1905 had a Duma that is not unlike our Congress, or actually, it's not at all unlike our Senate. And Lenin's explaining why this whole system sucks.
All right. So the piece is titled "Old Problems and the Senile Decay of Liberalism." Deputy Shegorov, I probably mispronounced that. Feel free to correct my pronunciation at any point if it's grossly necessary, which I'm sure it would be. But Deputy Shegorov, one of the most prominent cadets, recently delivered a lecture in St. Petersburg on the new Duma and old problems, a lively, interesting, and topical subject. As is the custom, our cadet trounced the Octoberists. The Octoberists, he explained, hesitate to associate themselves with the right wing and dare not associate with the left. Our bold that is for a Democratic audience, cadet apparently regards the progressists as belonging to the left. But Mr. Shegorov remains silent on the fact that 3/4 of these closest friends and political comrades in arms of the cadets are themselves Octoberists. This does sound eerily familiar.
Exactly. They show a lot of lip service to the right. I mean, it sounds a lot like just Pelosi.
I mean, totally. Well, when I did a short video about like the whole neoliberalism, neo-fascist thing that we just talked about. And I talked about, and by the way, just so you know, there's plenty of crossover because there are a lot of Democrats who I would say are by definition neo-fascist. I would say Joe Biden is by definition a neo-fascist. Pete Buttigieg is by definition a neo-fascist.
He's scary.
They are scary. And yeah, Pete Buttigieg especially. I mean, I still think he was the scariest person up on that stage in 2020.
Like I don't know what he did in Somaliland, but nobody needs to go to Somaliland.
Well, I mean, his ties to the CIA and just the type of ideas that he has parroted, which, you know, I mean, they're genuine neo-fascist ideas. Even his idea to just privatize all of our roads and then like put the tolls on people for a per mileage uses.
What?
That is
That's
fascist.
psycho.
That's in the $1 trillion infrastructure package. That's literally fascist. I mean, fascism, people kind of forget. They just think like fascism is just anything that's really, really terrible. We just call it fascism. And in some cases, like, you're correct. But what fascism actually is, you know, it can be traced back to Mussolini. And it was basically this idea of just marrying the corporation and the state. That's what fascism is. That's literally what the Republicans are. And the Democrats are okay with it. They're the neoliberals, which neoliberalism just means let the market do its thing, which will inevitably lead to neo-fascism 100% of the time. They're just less blunt neo-fascists, more or less.
You're absolutely right. Aran,
take your pick. All right, I'll keep
okay, but wait 1 second. Aran, I just sent you my piece that I wrote about a few years ago that was very popular. Don't read it now, but I talk about how similar fascism is to Reaganomics.
Oh, right. Totally.
But read it like later.
Right. So I'll continue. Should I continue?
Yeah, yes, please.
All right. He wants Democrats to regard the cadets as lefts, notwithstanding the permanent and very close block that actually exists between the cadets and the progressists, who stand halfway between the cadets and the Octoberists.
Kind of like,
in other words,
centrists.
Yeah, right. In other words, the cadets are angling for the Democrats, although they are themselves actually held in captivity by the progressives, who are notoriously anti-democratic. Yes, this all sounds really familiar. So here's another quote here. The torpor reminds one of the stale of passengers in a train that has been held up at a wayside station, said Mr. Shigurov, speaking of the Fourth Duma. To shake off their torpor and get the train going, the passengers have to clear the way themselves. But to get the heavy legislative machine going, the strength of the passengers alone is not enough. There are 3 padlocks on our reforms: the law of June 3rd, the upper chamber, and the fact that the executive authorities are not responsible. How these 3 padlocks will be opened, whether in peace and quietness or in some other way, history will show. Our contemporaries cannot remain absolute non-participants. They must all pull together. References to history are convenient. Mr. Shagiroff and the cadets refer to history in the same way as those people about whom Marx said that they defend the whip because it is a historical whip. History,
this one seems very appropriate for this week also.
Right.
As Janet, later, have you seen, okay, finish reading and then we'll talk about Jen Psaki.
Okay. History will, of course, show how the padlocks will be opened. That is incontestable and fruitless truism. It is an excuse deriving from senile decay. A politician must be able to say which class owns the padlocks and which classes must open them and by what means. History will show exactly what it showed 7.5 years ago. The fruitlessness...
107.
Oh, yeah, right. Now 107, then 7.5. The fruitlessness of liberal reformism and liberal dreams of living in peace with the class that owns the padlocks. Ooh.
Yes.
Solid. That's nice.
I know. And this to me is exactly it. Like liberals, when you have the padlocks, they never ask what are they locking with their padlock? Who are they locking with their padlocks?
Who has the padlocks? They give the nice lip service about how we have to break through the padlocks, but what they don't tell you is that they're playing for Team Padlock.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to talk quickly about the historical whip is because I'm not sure if you caught it, but there are a lot of refugees from Haiti in Texas. And apparently Joe Biden's border control, literally tried to round them up with a whip. Have you seen that video?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the Jen Psaki statement after that?
Well, I don't think I did. I know I didn't see it, but I saw some grumblings on social media. Didn't she blame the horses or something?
From President Biden specifically about these images on the border. You have described him as saying that they're horrible, but what does he believe of the comparisons being made between his administration and the Trump administration? We saw Congresswoman Maxine Waters just today saying this is Trump's policy. Several other Democrats are saying this looks like the previous administration. What does he think of those comments?
Well, what our role is and what the president has asked his outreach team, members of his national security team, Homeland Security team to do is to explain clearly what our policy is and what our policy is not. We could not see it as any more different from the policy of the prior administration, which the president feels, we all feel, was inhumane, immoral, ineffective, wasn't operationally working. And because of the dysfunction of it, we have led to a very broken system that we're dealing with today. So what he has asked all of us to convey clearly to people who are understandably have questions, are passionate, are concerned, as we are about the images that we have seen, is one, we feel those images are horrible and horrific. There is an investigation the president certainly supports, overseen by the Department of Homeland Security, which he has conveyed will happen quickly. I can also convey to you that the secretary also conveyed to civil rights leaders earlier this morning that we would no longer be using horses in Del Rio. So that is something, a policy change that has been made in response. But separately, all related, it's also important for people to understand what our process and our immigration process is and what the steps are that are taken. We are still under Title 42 because we are in a global pandemic. So we are still operationalizing that. If people are not expelled under that, then there are a range of options. Either they are put into an alternative to detention where biometric data is required. They are required to they are given a notice to appear, or they are put in an ICE facility. This is the process that is ongoing and has happened for every other migrant who has attempted to come irregularly.
I mean, she says a lot of horrible, dumb things, but I was just very shocked that her the propaganda is not working. They've gotten lazy with the propaganda, I think. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, What was the one where they randomly ended that press conference abruptly, like in the middle of Boris Johnson speaking, and she just straight up said, like, yeah, they didn't clear it ahead of time to ask us questions. We have a free press where you have to ask us permission to talk to us. Bow down before your king. So, yeah, I mean, I think she's been quite something. And you know, like in the Trump era, it was just as ridiculous. And yeah, that's nothing new. So, yeah, I'm with you. They say the quiet part out loud all too often. I mean, you saw with Afghanistan, like at first they were like, we need to stay in Afghanistan for women's rights. And then everybody was like, that's
Come on.
the most, no one
you
saw
wouldn't
that.
put the rapey warlords who like did gang rape like
Yeah,
in power again.
No one bought that. Everyone was like, that's ridiculous. So they quickly pivoted and they were like, look at all these resources. We need them. That was like literally in a matter of days. CNN went from it's about women's rights. No one quite bought that because that's ridiculous to they still have minerals and resources that we need.
Lots of them,
the quiet
apparently.
part out loud. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's always about that. Like, I don't know. Like I don't understand how anyone can take a single concern about U.S. human rights seriously when it's usually about like, oh, does this country have minerals we need or not?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the only time we care.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Oh my God. My God. Yeah. That is really shocking that she just kind of, wow. One other time she was like it was really funny. It was under Obama where somebody asked about, I can't remember which country they were cooing, but I'm going to just guess Bolivia. Mm-hmm. And she was like, the United States generally accepts sovereignty of Latin American nations or something. Mm-hmm. And the reporters at the briefing was like, since when? You guys have done a lot of coups. Like, it was so embarrassing.
Well, kudos to that reporter for at least saying that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember the specific event you're referring to as far as like that happening. But if a reporter said that, kudos to them for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, there was because it was so ridiculous. Like people were audibly laughing hysterically like at that statement because it was so ridiculous. I mean, yeah,
I have the clip.
Can you show that?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me just share the screen. It's Venezuela, I think.
Okay.
2015.
Okay.
President Maduro last night went on the air and said that they'd arrested multiple people who were allegedly behind a coup that was backed by the United States. What is your response?
These latest accusations, like all previous accusations, are ludicrous. As a matter of longstanding policy, the United States does not support political transitions by non-constitutional means. Political transitions must be democratic, constitutional, peaceful, and legal. We've seen many times that the Venezuelan government tries to distract from its own actions by blaming the United States or other members of the international community for events inside Venezuela. These efforts reflect a lack of seriousness on the part of the Venezuelan government to deal with the grave situation it faces.
The U.S. has, whoa. The U.S. has a long-standing practice of not promoting, what did you say? How long-standing is that? I would, in particular, in South and Latin America, that is not a long-standing practice.
So I think
my point here, Matt, without getting into history, is that we do not support, we have no involvement with.
Good for that guy. And I think the only reason we saw something like that, I can't tell, but it looks like that was like an international gathering. Is that correct?
I don't know. It sounded like it was her press gathering in a White House press gathering. And they're probably international people.
Yeah, that's probably the only reason something like that happened. I think if it was a domestic thing, nothing like that would happen. Not with the reporters that they let in there.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess they can't control international press as much. But you're right. What I noticed,
and also in other countries they do have journalism. So, I mean, we have it here, but you really got to dig for it.
Well, I mean, yeah. For me, well, okay. This is the problem: is literally the access journalism, as in they literally take access from anyone who asks tough questions. So what you have is just
utter nonsense, like people who are like who will literally let them, I don't know, like literally, like they won't actually question a single thing.
Well, we don't really have news organizations. We just have glorified PR organizations that, you know, pose as news. But I mean, really, it's like everything. Like most of the stuff you see is just like glorified press releases. You know, I mean, occasionally something pretty solid slips between the cracks, but you know, systemically, there's a huge rot in our news structure. Our media system would be illegal in a lot of other countries, like the way we have advertising from defense contractors and oil and gas. I mean, that wouldn't be legal in a place like Norway, for instance, and it shouldn't be legal because that's like conflict of interest 101. How are you going to tell the truth about what's going on in the environment if oil and gas funds your network? How are you going to tell the truth about what's going on with war and peace if weapons manufacturers are funding your network? Which, by the way, like when we see those commercials, that should like give off a red flag to any general person. Why are they advertising defense industries on cable news? Is the regular consumer in the market for a new tank anytime soon?
Never. Oh, good point.
They're buying favorable coverage. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's how our media works. And that's how it's worked for a long time. And it literally should be illegal. Like it should not, you shouldn't be allowed to advertise the way they do because it's just conflict of interest 101. You'll learn this in a freshman journalism class. You know, but we permit it here in the United States and we have for years.
1 second. I think I got this, but I just want to check with Janet to make sure that we have not read the second piece. Janet, there are two pieces Lenin wrote. One is called Capitalism and Armaments, and the other is called Armaments and Capitalism. So I can't remember which one we read. But you're absolutely right in that. Yeah, you're right. CNN does have Boeing commercials, and no one's going to be buying. Nobody watch. Like you're not going to be like.
Yeah, I mean they all do. MSNBC does it. Fox News does it, and that's it. There's only freaking 3 of them, but yeah, they all do it.
Yeah, I never. Oh my! What? Yeah. So the reason why they put Boeing commercials is so that you can have these like former defense people there, and they won't ever tell you. He'll just be MSNBC analyst and not neocon in charge of, I don't know, lobby for more weapons, whatever they are.
They hire them as correspondents, and they're proud of it. They're like, hey, we have these CIA people as correspondents. The people we're supposed to hold to account. We just hire them to be part of our network.
Oh yeah, okay. So I know we may have done one of these two. So
we did the armaments in capitalism. So do you want to do the other one? Or
yeah, let's do capitalism and armaments.
So you don't want to do the deception of the people.
We could do that, but let's just do the capitalism and armaments because
capitalism and armaments. Okay, that's the one we haven't done. Okay.
All right. So this piece is called Capitalist and Armaments. The British Labour Press is continuing its interesting and instructive campaign of exposure, revealing how the syndicates of internationally associated capitalists are pushing the nations into war. Sounds familiar. Make Nobel's Dynamite Trust or syndicate. Its capital comes to the tidy sum of 30 million rubles.
That's about 15 million US dollars back then.
Okay. Last year, it had a net profit of 3.3 million rubles, 11% in net profit. Not bad, eh? In their annual report, the Nobel dealers in destructive materials modestly explained their success in this short phrase. This year, there was a high demand for military supplies. Is it surprising? The capitalist press and the political leaders serving the capitalists have been shouting about war and clamoring for more armaments that is so profitable for the industrialists manufacturing military supplies. But who are they, these industrialists? They are the associated capitalists of all nations, the brothers of ministers, members of parliament, and so on.
All too familiar.
Right. No kidding, right?
What's his name? Our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, he used to, what was it? Raytheon board.
Yeah, he was on Raytheon's board. Well, I mean, even just like going back to the Bush administration and like the New American Century and Halliburton, I mean, there were all those connections there and they were just making each other rich while just deceiving a nation into this endless war. But All right. So among the shareholders of the Dynamite Trust, which is a shareholder, if not an owner, of 4 dynamite plants in Germany, we come across the following names: German Army General von Mulberg, Major Baron von Frisch, etc. British Army General J. Donald, Colonel Noel Finlay, etc. French Army Colonel Fran Entel Lafarge. Lord Glenconner, brother of Mrs. Asquith, the British Prime Minister's wife, Sir North, a minister, Harold Tennant, MP, Dushbake, Hanover Bank, etc. The leaders of the national parties in various parliaments who shout about the might of the state and about patriotism via the motion formulas of the cadets, progressists, and Octoberists in the Fourth Duma, realize this patriotism by arming France against Germany, Germany against Britain, etc. They are all such ardent patriots. They are also concerned, so concerned about the might of the state, their own, of course, against the enemy. And so they sit alongside these enemies on the boards and at the meetings of the shareholders of the Dynamite and other trusts, raking syndicates, raking in millions of rubles in net profits and pushing each one his own nation into war against other nations. Not much has changed. And by not much, I mean nothing.
Exactly. This is what everyone says. And when I had Graham Elwood on, what was really funny is he was reading this piece where Lenin talks about World War I, and he says it's a competition between the capitalists in Britain and Germany about who gets to rob Turkey of its oil. And then when you look at the map, it's still that same thing. We're still trying to figure out who gets to rob Iraq and Syria of its oil.
Right.
So unfortunately, what I feel is that Americans are too disconnected from what really goes on behind. It's like the sausage analogy where you don't want to see the sausage and they put a little bit of a veil over the sausage. But I have a feeling that if Americans saw the sausage, they wouldn't like it, but they're too disconnected. Like, what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that if people really saw what we're doing around the world, they'd be absolutely appalled by it. And I think a lot of Americans are. I mean, I do think that the majority of Americans who are awake to it are against what we do around the world. They're against the wars. And they're wary of it because people are making these connections that, hey, the reason we don't have a decent quality of life at home is because we're an empire who's committed to an economy of war. And as such, the quality of life continues to deteriorate here at home. You know, when people see those connections, they start to really question, what are we doing? I know that's kind of sad where it's like, well, you can't really get people to care unless it affects them personally. But this is life. This is humanity. And a lot of Americans, especially, they're working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive. They're struggling just to put food on the table. It's not that they're completely ignorant of the world around them. It's just, they're kind of stuck in their own bubble for the sake of survival. And they don't really have the acumen to dig deep and find out what we're doing around the world. And they just kind of watch cable news because that's what's readily available. And that, just parrots a pro-war narrative 100% of the time. We have an obnoxiously pro-war media. I would argue we are the most war propagandized nation on earth. And it's by design.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on most of it. What I do think, though, that people misunderstand is people who are really poor, they actually have a better idea of what's going on in the world than the middle class people who are the, I guess, target crowd for the liberal media. And this is not based on data, but me canvassing for Bernie in South Carolina. And I noticed that people who were really struggling kind of had a really good idea of what everything was going on. They just
because they live it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean that's totally. And I wasn't necessarily talking poor versus not as poor. I mean, I don't even think I guess I would argue I don't think we really have a middle class anymore. I mean,
it's getting smaller and smaller each year.
I mean, it's almost gone, and I think the only reason it's hanging on by a shred is because of past generations, more or less. So yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's just basically we have a lower and lower quality of life for so many Americans. So, it's easy to just kind of, when you're just trying to keep your head above water, it's hard to really like get face to face with what's really going on here. But, like you pointed out, when you're really poor and you have to live it each day, you're asking these questions, why is it this way? Whereas if you're comfortable, it's easier to ignore.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I've noticed. And I guess one thing is I wonder like how much of well let me just give you a good example. Until about the Juan Guaido thing, like the press would just repeat over and over, Maduro's a brutal dictator who suppresses dissent over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people like just that volume, like how, even if like most people probably didn't have time, but of course it became obvious that it was not true when the Juan Guaido thing happened. But just like that, those like random crap that they just repeat with the volume, like where they can push out lots of volume of propaganda. Like, can somebody like you, me, Graham Elwood, like any of us, like, or all of us together, can we actually make a dent against that tidal wave of propaganda?
That's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I want to say yes, but I mean, yeah, like we don't have the power. We don't have, the resources that they have. We don't have the microphone that they have. So, it's a very, very significant uphill climb. And it's essentially important that, people in America continue to do those kind of things where they actually go to these places and tell people the truth about what's really going on. That is infinitely important. As far as, can it beat the the established corporate narrative that's,
or even make a dent, not even beat, just like kind of make often I feel like we're just all like putting drops of water into the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way too. I feel that way too. Cause I mean, so can it make a dent? I guess what do you mean by a dent? I mean, can it connect with some people here and there and change some minds? Yeah, I think it can do that. Can it, give people an alternative viewpoint that some people are going to find and some people are going to connect with and do some more digging? Yes, it can do that. In the case of me, I mean, I'm just a comedian doing a news oriented show from a left wing perspective. Can it help people feel a little bit less alone in the world? Yes, it can do that. Can it help, build a community? Yes, it can do that. Can it help make that community bigger? Yes, it can do that. Can it overtake the powers that be, CNN, Fox News, stuff like that? God, I'd like to think so someday, but I mean, not anytime soon.
Well, okay. So can you talk a little bit more about your comedy? I don't know how much longer we have, but how has your comedy evolved since you first started going on tour to like now? And you also have a new tour coming up soon, right?
No, I don't.
I don't. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I must have gotten you confused with somebody else. Sorry.
We were supposed to do 3 weeks in October, but with the variant being the way it is, we decided to cancel. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm doing some live shows here and there, but we were supposed to go pretty much all across the country for 3 weeks. We were doing about 25 shows in as many days. This is myself and Graham Elwood. And, we just kind of thought with the state of affairs right now in the world, it was just not a good time to do something like that. If we had just occasional weekend shows here and there, we would probably have kept them. But because of how extensive the tour was, we just thought we can't do this. So we just kind of, we canceled that tour. So I'll be getting back out there next year, hopefully, depending on how, things go with the world. But my hope is to get back out there in 2022. But after 2 years of canceled tours, you're a little weary to, take anything for granted or plan too far ahead. Because, we got burned twice. So
that makes sense. But like, has your the second question is like, how has your comedy evolved? Like, what were you talking about before? Like, what have you changed? Like, is it just?
I would like to think it's just gotten better and deeper. But, I mean, I hope anyway. But no, I've always talked about politics, so that hasn't changed. Like I'm not. I was into politics before I was into comedy. So part of the reason I got into comedy was because I was really into stuff like George Carlin and Bill Hicks.
I love George Carlin.
Louis Black at the time. Like that's when like Louis, this would have been during the Bush administration, and Louis Black was really going hard at the Bush administration. And he's still like one of the only comedians I know of who straight up on CNN said, "I am a socialist."
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he did, which I kind of was like, that's really cool. He just said that. This is a dude who's like, on all these mainstream platforms. He's on Comedy Central all the time. He's on, and he just straight up said like they were just talking about just politics in general and Republicans and Democrats. And he just said, look, I'm a socialist. I'm not even in your spectrum. Like I'm just outside of your spectrum. And he goes, and here's the deal. I was broke until the age of 40. And now I'm rich. And if you tax me more, guess what's going to happen? I'm still going to be rich, but maybe we could do some good things for other people. I just thought that was pretty cool, hearing that as a kid in my early 20s or whatever. So I always tried to talk about politics. I mean, it took a long time for me to really hone it. When I first started, I was just doing jokes like, George Bush, he talks funny. He messes up his words. What a goofball. And he's a war criminal. But yeah, what a goofball, So I definitely had to like kind of hone it over time, like all comics do. Like, you write more and you dig deeper. But as far as like topic matter, I haven't really changed all that much. I mean, I'm just, now it's a little different because when I go on the road, I'm doing my own thing. So people that come to the shows, they're there, to see me or to see Graham and myself. So they know what they're getting into. Whereas like if you're just in a general comedy club, people might not know what they're getting into. They might just be going to a comedy night. So, if you want to talk about something heavier like politics or whatever else, a general person might not really want that at all. And they might really shut down very quickly. Whereas if it's your thing and people are here because, I watch Ron online or, I watch the shows or whatever, then, they're ready to take them or they're ready for you to take them where you are hoping to take them. So I guess that's a little different. Although even back then I would always talk about politics in my act. I would just kind of, position it the right way where it's like, I wouldn't necessarily open with something hard hitting or political. I would just open with something a little more general. Because not all my stand-up's political anyway. I like to talk about just other observational things and other just life things too. Like it's not like it's 40 minutes of nothing but politics. So, I would open with something not political, and I still do that just because, you kind of want to win people over. You kind of want to get them to trust you. And then once they trust you, then you can kind of take them into a different place, see if they go there with you. So I guess I haven't really changed all that much in that regard.
Well, okay. So with my, I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong, but my theory is that comedy, there's a lot of pretense in society where you use nice words, and comedy, in my opinion, is a lot about just telling the dark, unvarnished truth, and that somehow makes people laugh. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, that's always kind of been the rule. It's like the jester can say whatever they want as long as they're funny. So they can kind of say the controversial things that no one wants to say, or say the things that really call the emperor out. They just have to be funny when they do it. If they're not funny, then I guess what? They're going to be beheaded, right? But yeah, I mean, I feel like comedy's in a very weird place right now, especially in the United States, because you literally have late night show hosts that kind of prop up the establishment in so many ways. I mean, you have the fact that a comedian will dance and play footsies with somebody like George W. Bush.
Which are we talking about Ellen, or did somebody else after Ellen did it?
Ellen did it, and I mean, I'm sure Ellen wasn't even the only one, but I mean, yeah, Ellen did it. I mean, even I mean, I think there's even been some other people who said things like, "Oh, I miss those days of George W. Bush," even though George W. Bush was like, I would argue if you had to pick the worst president of at least my lifetime, that accolade would go to George W. Bush. I mean, the new American century and the axis of evil, I mean, that has put us on the path that we're on now.
I'm going to argue that it's Ronald Reagan, but I don't know. Yeah, Trump is not even close to the damage that either of the Bushes have done, or Reagan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say it goes Bush, Reagan. I think the case can certainly be made for Reagan, Bush. I mean, we're really comparing the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the barrel. But basically, it's like both of them, what they have in common is they set a very, very despicable tone. That's what Reagan did. And we're still reeling from that 40 years on. And that's what Bush, George W. Bush did. Everybody else just kind of kept that terrible tone on autopilot. That's like George Bush set this tone. Obama kept it on autopilot. Trump kept it on autopilot. Biden's going to keep it on autopilot. And, similar with like Reagan. But I forget what your question was.
You were talking about how George. Okay, so I think the question is, we were talking about how comedians these days are not actually holding people to power. And you were talking about The Late Show.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird to me to see how it's like they kind of embrace the powers that be. Like it's like comedy's supposed to be like have this David versus Goliath mentality about it. That's what intrigued me to it. And meanwhile, it's like you see all these comedians, especially today, where they're just like, we're going to team up with Goliath, see how that works out. That's bizarre to me. And it's kind of hard to watch, and it's kind of hard to like try to think like, well, how do I fit into all this? When you see people, especially like someone like Barack Obama, who's like this sacred shrine that nobody can dare criticize Obama. Although when he was in office, they actually were willing to. I mean, I remember Stephen Colbert when he was still playing that character.
Yeah.
Which, he used to play a character. Now he has become that character.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, he has become like a total. You're right. He used to play this like extreme shot, like a Bill O'Reilly impression, but he would actually tell the truth in that character.
Right. Well, he had a joke. He did this joke, I want to say in like 2011, 2012, when Obama was getting ready to run again, where he kind of called out how lunatic the Republicans are. But he also called out how freaking disappointing Obama was, because his joke was he was talking about all the candidates on the Republican side. He's like, wow, these candidates are so far to the right that it looks like the only moderate Republican in the race is Barack Obama.
That was a good one.
That's a good joke, first of all. It is a good joke. And that's a joke that, like, I mean, it takes a shot at all the powerful.
Yeah.
It doesn't play partisan hackery at all. Now, Stephen Colbert, last time he had Obama on his show, he said, like, let me drink you in or something like that. God. And I get it, like, Obama's not in office anymore, but still, like, come on, man. And that's just the state of affairs right now in the United States. And I think a lot of it is people were so shell-shocked when Trump won that it really made them, instead of kind of digging deeper and seeing, well, what's the system that got us to this point? Because that should be what's in our cross, this system. Instead of doing that, they just kind of were hyper-focused on like, oh, Trump's so mean and we just need to get back to this time where there's no Trump and everything will be fine. Well, guess what? There's no Trump now. And everything's still not fine. So, Trump's a symptom of a much bigger disease.
Actually, for me, John Oliver, actually, like, I did a video. He just made up this crap about Belarus, which was all like regime change propaganda. And at the end, he had a fundraiser for, I'm not kidding you, like he had a Nazi teddy bear fundraiser where he basically, like in Belarus, was occupied by the Nazis for like between 1941 and 44. And he had a fundraiser to help coups there. But then he took down my video on like a copyright infringement. And he's actually done 2 shows about people abusing copyrights like this.
Okay, I mean, I haven't seen what you're referring to.
Oh, no. He took down that. You can't see it because he took down that video.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just saying that how
often comedians have. I was just saying, like, he did 2 shows about copyright infringement, but then he does the same thing. So you're right. Like a lot of comedians, actually, SNL does a lot of like low key sycophancy that they try to launder as comedy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen it, and granted, I mean, full disclaimer, I don't watch a ton of.
I can't watch
all
SNL.
of it, you know, like I just don't. It's just not in my wheelhouse, really. But I mean, certain things that I have seen, like I mean, there was that one time. I don't know if it was SNL or if it was one of the other shows where like they all wrote thank you letters to Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God, that was SNL. Yes.
Was it SNL? It's just like, dude, this is not. You know, I mean, I'm not saying like don't criticize everybody. Like, criticize the powerful.
Yeah.
That includes Democrats. It's not like, I mean, you know, you even look at stuff like The Daily Show and it's is
horrible.
the DNC writing your script?
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's been some like kind of on the street stuff that, you know, has kind of made me chuckle when I've seen it. But, you know, like as a whole, it's like so safe.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always that way. I mean, I get it. If you're on a big network, you can't get away with as much as someone who's just kind of on the internet can get away with. I understand
but
that.
Should you be on that big network if you're that big? I mean, you don't need to be on that network.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But
Yeah. Exactly.
I do know that, you know, Jon Stewart, who, you know, apparently wasn't the greatest guy in the world, but Jon Stewart, I mean, he went harder than they go now. I mean, he went hard at the systems, and you know, I think he kind of did push it as far as you can on a corporate network. You know, I mean, he was kind of willing to push it a little bit. You don't see that anymore. You know,
no.
and did he go as far as he could? Well, it's tough to say. And I'm also going on a memory that goes back over 10 years. So things aren't necessarily fresh in my mind either. But he definitely pushed a lot harder than they do now. And, you know, it's kind of sad to see. And it's kind of sad. I mean, you listen to someone like a Bill Maher, like the guy's pretty much a neocon.
He's horrible.
And people make it out like he's on the left. It's like, dude, this guy is a straight up neocon. And
extremely racist too, on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get your? Well, one of my favorite comedians, Norm Macdonald, he died recently, and for me, I really like. It was so weird how he got removed from SNL so suddenly. But what I really do like is how authentic he stayed till about his last act.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of him in SNL, to tell you the truth.
They just abruptly removed him, is what I do know.
Yeah, and I don't know the details around it, but yeah, I mean, he was a fantastic comic. I mean, I didn't know him personally, but I know a lot of people who did, and he was one of those guys, like, no one ever had a bad word to say about him. He was just a genuinely decent guy, it seemed like, and a fantastic comic. I mean, It's like you watch that guy. He's one of those guys where you would watch him and you'd be like, this is somebody I'm going to be chasing for the rest of my career as far as how good they are. You know, like they really set the bar on what it means to be a comedian. And yeah, so, you know, it's amazing too. He was suffering for 10 years and just didn't tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't know until he died, but yeah, like they said, like, yep, he had cancer for 10 years, didn't, you know, kept it to himself. And so, yeah.
George Carlin is like another comedian that never, like, there are some comedians who age super quickly, and with George Carlin, his material's still funny now because I don't know why but he is ageless.
Yeah, he really is. And I would say, like, in so many ways, he got better as time went on. I think it's like George Carlin, I mean, he really hit his stride in like his 50s and 60s even. I mean, he was just so sharp and just so... And you can tell when he just stopped caring entirely about what anyone thought. Not that he cared much in the first place, but he just started caring less and less, and it was beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't have tried stand-up if it wasn't for George Carlin.
Wow.
I mean, you know, like watching George Carlin, and I never got to see him live, but I have seen his record collection, which is very random. but I did see George Carlin's record collection. He was dead, but I did get to see it. It's kind of goofy, but yeah. So Carlin, yes.
Okay. What before we head out, like, what is next on the Ron Placone show? Like, do you guys have any project or anything upcoming in the next few weeks?
I do. Well, I have some cool stuff coming up. First of all, everyone can check out my show, Get Your News On with Ron, at youtube.com/Ron Placone, or you can just get the podcast, Get Your News On with Ron, wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. And you can follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone, Instagram, Ron Placone, TikTok, I'm just Ron Placone on all the platforms. So you can find me there. And I'm working on a movie. We just released the trailer for the movie.
Nice.
It's called Left at Wall, and we have a GoFundMe right now.
What's it called again?
Left at Wall. And you can go to my pinned tweet on my Twitter. It's just at Ron Placone, or you can go to my YouTube or Rockfin channels, which is just Ron Placone on YouTube or Rockfin.
Can we show the trailer around this time when we air the show?
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Please do.
I'm going to propose.
Shut up. God, I hope Sarah says yes, man. That would be shocking. Well, the whole thing's been shocking. As an outsider, like the first time I saw you with her, I was like, you know what I mean? You look like you want a reality show. And she's, I'm happy because I didn't think there was any way this would last this long.
Thanks. I'm a writer. My more successful brother, he's on Wall Street. I don't know how it happened.
So, how was Don?
He's done.
It's Tiffany. They want to meet up tonight. Don has some exciting news.
Tell him to send the cliff notes to whogivesashit@gmail.
John, come on. He's your brother.
Not my call.
You wouldn't understand. The whole thing with Wall Street, John, is how complicated it is, okay? Like, we're going to short sell Game Bites, but to you wouldn't understand.
I bet I would.
John, I just can't anymore. Save your drama for the page. I just can't.
What are you saying?
I think we need a break.
Awesome. No girlfriend, no work, no agent. Is this rock bottom? We're gonna do a short sell. You wouldn't understand. By the way, short selling, not that difficult. In a video game store, that's a pretty safe bet. The only way that could go wrong is if... Game Bites. We need to buy shares of it.
What? Why?
A bunch of hedgers are trying to short sell it. We all buy shares. That drives the price up. Then, when they go to pay up, it's worth more than what they paid for it. We win, they lose. They always say if you can't beat them, join them. They never say join them to beat them. Time to beat them at their own game.
You're really passionate about this.
It's personal.
We'll start buying slowly. We've got some big names involved too. By the time the markets close, should be at least double the price.
I'll be able to pay for my surgery.
I'll be able to knock out all that student loan debt. If we pull this off, it'll only be the beginning. They'll fear us because they'll have to. You know what destroys a market?
Fear. Let's do this.
And what's it about?
So it's about Wall Street. And if you remember that thing that happened with the GameStop stock?
Were they vaguely, but not very well?
So here, sorry, I'm like trying to type.
No, don't worry
about
it.
Video, and I'm typing over a cat. You can't really see her here, But Lucy is sitting right
Hi,
here.
Lucy.
So yeah, she's
Lenin liked cats too a lot.
You like cats a lot?
No, Lenin liked cats.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I'll send you Lenin. There's yeah, but I it's not that I don't like cats. I just my sister has a dog, but not a cat. I see the video. Okay.
All right. So yeah, well, I love cats, and but you're more of a dog person.
Yeah.
That's fine. I love them both. I really do. But Lucy's my special girl here, and yeah, you can't see her, but she's on the desk, and I'm petting her, so I have to like type over.
No worries.
But yeah, it's a movie about what happened where they bought a bunch of people on Reddit bought shares of the GameStop stock to drive up the price, and that screwed over a bunch of people who were trying to short sell it. So basically, they kind of screwed over.
Short selling is where they try to make profit from the price going down, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like they borrow the stock and then they sell it right away. So what they're betting on is the price going down. So when they go to pay up for the stock that they borrowed, it's less than what they initially sold it for. So they make a profit. It's a pretty screwy thing. I mean, Wall Street is basically just a casino that never should have happened. And so this movie, it is a fictionalized story that's loosely based on it. So it's not a real story. I mean, some people they're just like, Ron, are you implying that a socialist Hollywood writer started all this? And it's fiction. It's freaking fiction. It's loosely based on this thing that happened. So yeah, it's a fictional story about two brothers. And one brother is a big Wall Street guy. The other brother's a struggling writer, and they butt heads. So the writer brother gets word that his brother's trying to short sell this video game store. So he concocts this whole plan to prove to his brother that he actually knows what he's doing, and that, his brother's game isn't so precious. So that's the premise of the movie. You can check out the GoFundMe, watch the trailer. And if you like it and you want to make a contribution, that's freaking awesome. We have all kinds of perks for people who contribute. Everyone gets a shout out on my podcast. So I'll give you a special thank you.
Is there a goal you need to meet in order to finish producing the movie?
Yeah, I mean, the goal, we're trying to get 60 grand for it, but we're gonna try to get funding through a variety of means, like everything from investors to crowdfunding to just I'll probably throw up some of my own money. So we're just taking it one step at a time so far, and we're gonna, as we get some funding, we're gonna start making it and see where we land. But yeah, so you can check out the trailer. And if you want to contribute, there's all kinds of perks. You get a shout out on my podcast where I give you a thank you. You can get some behind the scene footage with the cast as we're making the movie. We're going to make exclusive videos and stuff.
Nice.
And we're going to do a virtual screening with a Q&A afterwards. And you can even get your name in the credits. So there's a lot of perks for people who give. So if you're interested and able, please do check it out.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I think we need a lot. We had a writer here before, and we do need a lot more leftist art out there because the right wing can just dump billions, and a lot of the art can actually have a really big impact. So I'm glad you're doing this. And so yeah, I will definitely check out the trailer, and good luck with the movie. And yeah, everyone check out all these. So we'll put all the social media links, and we'll also have this played. So check out. It sounds like a really fantastic movie. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, making the trailer was a blast. Like, I just loved. I mean, especially like the cast and everything. I just had a blast working with everyone. So I really look forward to making.
Did you write it?
Yeah, I wrote it. Yeah,
wow.
I wrote it, and I play the Hollywood writer brother. I play him.
That's more like you, I guess.
Yeah. So
who plays your brother?
My brother is played by. Do you know the Dollop podcast?
Yeah, Dave Anthony.
Well, not Dave Anthony.
Garrett. Okay, Garrett, I'm friends with Dave, but I don't know Garrett.
They're both awesome people. I'm actually hoping Gareth is playing my brother. And there's actually a bit part that I'm hoping Dave will do too.
Okay.
So I kind of wrote something that I have Dave in mind for. I don't know if he'll be able to or if he'll even be interested. But yeah, Gareth is playing my brother. And yeah, we had a blast. I mean, Gareth's just so freaking funny.
Yeah.
I had a blast.
They're both hilarious.
They both are,
Dave. Dave is really, really good. And like I said, I don't know Gareth personally, but he is very funny on the show.
I love what they do, and that's The Dollop is one of my favorite podcasts, and Gareth is a buddy. We used to go get beers together in LA in between both of our tour dates. We haven't gotten to do that in a while. But yeah, so I wrote it, and he was one of the first people I thought of that would be really fun for this role, and he said yes. So
and
yeah.
How long is the movie for? Like, is it a 60-minute, 90-minute?
I think it's gonna clock in like about an hour 10.
Oh, nice.
So it's not like a full length feature, but it's definitely like a full movie. But it's not a super long movie, and it's like an explainer film, kind of in the realm of Big Short. So it's like it's definitely a different kind of film. I mean, it's definitely like screenplay, but there's like these explainer portions in it where we're gonna do some like quirky cerebral stuff, and that all kind of comes through in the trailer too. Like it's definitely like a different type of film in that regard. Guided camera stuff, and there's even a spot in there where we're gonna be calling on a bunch of different YouTube shows and podcasts. Because there's this place where we have, I don't want to give anything away, but basically we need these fake newscasts to like signify what happened in the world. So we were going to have actual YouTube channels and podcasts make a fake newscast for it, and then we're going to use it in the movie. So it'll be a kind of cool thing for indie media too, because there's going to be, hopefully we're going to take this to festivals all over the freaking world. And so there'll be a bunch of YouTube channels and podcasts being highlighted at film festivals all over the world. Late Night with Lenin can be one of them, I hope.
That would be great.
So we're doing this. I'm really excited about the project. I've been wanting to do scripted content for a very long time. It's always been a goal of mine. And this thing kind of just marries all of my interests. Like it's from a left-wing perspective. It's a comedy. It's scripted. It has these kind of undertones going on. It incorporates indie media too. So it kind of has just like all like the little wheelhouses in my life kind of come together in this movie. So I can't wait to make it.
Well, I can't wait to watch it because it really does sound really exciting. And I'm glad, like I said, I think more leftists should do more art because it can reach people in a way that news can't.
I agree. Yeah, I've been wanting to do scripted a long time, and hopefully this is the start of many things. So yeah.
Inshallah.
Thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and have a good rest of the day.
You too. Thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Yep.
I need to read more Lenin. So
absolutely, everyone should read more Lenin, and I'll send you an email with all the things I said I'd send you an email.
I appreciate that. I look forward to that.
Okay. Bye.
Hi everyone. I guess we are back. Let's see. Hold on. This is okay. Now you can see me. So, what I'm gonna do is, as long as I get some super chats, I will be willing to go on as long as you want, because I have nothing really to do. But I won't. If I last more than 10 minutes without getting a super chat, I'm going to go off. But this is going to be fun. So let's do some comments. Hi, Alejandro Maxwell Toast. Okay, let's see. Yeah, actually check out our episode on historically.substack.com about the counter-revolutionary nature of suburbs, and you'll realize it was a conspiracy. Totalitarianism is, I would just say this word is utter nonsense. It just means things the State Department doesn't like. It has no economic analysis. You don't know who's benefiting, who's not, how the people are doing. There's no data analysis. So I just would just throw this word outside of your vocabulary. Okay. I disagree. There is not enough Obama bashing because there are still people who think he's a decent person. Unfortunately, what's happened with liberals is that they can only see the world from the standpoint of the bourgeoisie. So Fox News makes up crap about Obama because Fox News has to kind of hide or whitewash for capitalism. For example, one good example is which is a bigger scandal, the invading Libya itself and destroying Libya or Benghazi. There's a reason why they focused on Benghazi instead of the initial invasion of Libya, because the initial invasion of Libya was a war crime. That would have been totally legitimate. But what happened is that liberals are unable to navigate through this sea of having dumb, illegitimate criticisms of Obama with legitimate criticisms, and they assume that all criticisms of Obama are bad. But so there should be more Obama bashing. As long as there are people who still glorify Obama, bash him. Obama really irritates me too. He also personally triggers me. Like every time he tweets, I just get so triggered. Well, that's the way it is now. So capitalism is like trickle up poverty. When the gravy train of imperialism gets cut off and you don't have any more child soldiers in Congo, guess who's on the list? You are. So they will try to keep their profits by squeezing you. And so the people will become impoverished. And when the people become impoverished and the government has no colonies to expand to, well, that's when capital comes in and puts in like a Hitlerish Mussolini character in order to save them. So it will happen, but not for a while. So it might take a long time in the US. Let's see. Let's see. Game stunk to the moon. Oh my god. Thank you. I can try. I don't know where to find them. Historically.substack.com. I'll see if I can put it in the links below. Okay, I will. I just tweeted. I'll just send you the link here and tell me if you get this. Oh my god, thank you again. You're so sweet. I wish more people, I feel bad that you're one of the few people who keep giving. I wish other people would do it too. Okay. What do you want me to talk about? Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. Hold on. Let's see. Is there any way? Here, I just sent the full link. Is there? Can you ask a more specific question? Well, unions are not worthless per se, but what happened in 1948 was the unions started collaborating with the management and fighting against the workers in the third world, and then the chicken came home to roost. So yeah, so like in 1948 the deal was we'll keep the American worker comfy as long as you let us kind of go kill everything to kill everything that moves. So I don't know much about it. I've never watched it, but if you can explain why I should debunk it, I will. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, American unions are worthless. And on top of it, there's an organization called Solidarnos or Solidarity Center. AFL-CIO, I meant AFL-CIO managed just it. So recently I was just checking in Myanmar, there was this union that was like wrecking Chinese factories only, but not American factories, which sounds a lot like industrial sabotage. So you have to be very careful when, especially when you're hearing about unions abroad. If American news is all of a sudden concerned about people cracking down on unions, that's a red flag to go to the National Endowment for Democracy, NED.org, and check out to see if the union is a fake union. Oh my God. Whew. Okay. Let me see if I can get it. I can't watch it. If I can get a transcript, yes. It's much easier to just go and read through the transcript and find places to debunk than watching the whole series. No, I always do that on purpose. It's a purposeful Freudian slip where I always pretend that I can't remember if it's the AFL-CIO or the FLCIA. Let's see. $10 an hour. That's not even minimum. Wait, I don't even know what is minimum wage. Inside the West, yes, but in Colombia, where a lot of the union leaders get assassinated, no, they're much different. You should look up Isidro Gil, ISIDRO space GIL. He was a Coke union worker who was assassinated by the Coca-Cola people. So yeah, in the third world, they're much more revolutionary. Oh yeah, that is the great way, because I can't handle, oh my God, if it's like really bad. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I don't, maybe somebody else can help, because this is really stressful and I wish there was something we all could do. No, it won't be too late. Why? Okay. It's like MSNDNC, exactly. Let's see. Well, kind of. If Stalin and Roosevelt were homies, they were both making fun of Churchill all the time, and I get the feeling that Roosevelt didn't really like Churchill too much, and Stalin was way too polite to actually tell anyone what he really felt about Churchill. Yeah, a lot of people are to blame. As far as I can tell, yeah. Okay, let's see. CAA. What's the CAA? I don't know. CAA. Yeah. Unemployment really sucks. I know a lot of people who compare it to extreme trauma, like getting into a car accident. In a capitalist society, it really, really sucks, and you feel so alone. I wish I could Oh yeah, I thought I mentioned that in the beginning, but let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So what I know is that the US arrested this Huawei executive on this like total nonsense charge, but she never came to the US. She came to Canada, and Canada arrested her to be extradited to the US. But then China found these alleged spies from Canada inside China doing some sort of God knows, industrial espionage or drug smuggling or something to that effect. And it looks like the US agreed to drop charges on her so that Canada can get those spies back. And I guess it's a win-win for everyone. I don't know what more to say. I'm so sorry, but there should be people who could maybe help you file unemployment. Like, it really sucks. I'm sorry. I don't know. Good question. I don't even know how to figure out the answer to this question. Well, I don't even, well, yeah, there's no such thing as inverted, well, totalitarianism itself is a nonsense label. So inverted totalitarianism is even more nonsensical. And I like Chris Hedges. I once got trolled because I called him a random person or a random weirdo or something like that. But I don't like what he says about Lenin, and I don't like people who insult Lenin. And but he does good journalism. Like, you can trust all his investigative journalism. It's just that he's not very good with history or understanding, like, the whole Soviet propaganda. Liberation theology can be really leftist, like Padre Torres Restrepo, who, like, at the end is, we're going to ask the oligarchy to hand over power. And if they hand it over peacefully, we will take it. And if they insist on violence, they will be met with violence. I did a video on TikTok about him, Camilo Torres Restrepo. There's also Oscar Romero. So liberation theology can be very leftist. It sounds, even if he did, okay, whoever came up with it, I bet you a CIA agent. Let me look up Sheldon Wool. It's like such a stupid theory. Okay, Sheldon Wolin is, let's see, he worked in Princeton. Okay, Oberlin College, Harvard, Berkeley. He has been compared to Hannah Arendt. Was raised in Buffalo, and then he allegedly went to. Wolin flew 51 combat missions in the South Pacific. I'm not liking this. Okay. And inverted totalitarianism is like such nonsense. I don't even know. Everything is a managed democracy. There is no such thing as an unmanaged democracy. The purpose of a state is to oppress one class over another. Okay, fine. I will figure out a way to hunt him down. Yeah, the inverted is like such nonsense. It assumes that anything is not a managed democracy, because it's not like you can have a magical fairy dust that says will of people policy. So there is like some sort of government structure that's supposed to take the will of the people and go policy. But what if the oracle inside the government democracy machine is evil or something like that, and goes will of people and blocks it like one of those X-Men, like Jean Grey from X-Men. Yeah, so if it's a human-made structure, it is going to be managed for some things over the other. So it's like, it seems like utter nonsense to me. I mean, what do you mean? More responsive to popular will? If you mean that, perhaps. She also had a really creepy relationship that lasted way too long with this Nazi dude. Yes, exactly. Total gibberish. Gibberish. Well, we don't know who killed him. It might have been a coincidental infrared astronaut. Heidegger, yes, that's a guy Hannah Arendt had this weird, creepy relationship with. Aw, thank you so much. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Oh, Chomsky. Oh my God, he sucks. Oh, let's see if I can find this latest Chomsky video that's like super cringe. Oh God, he sucks. Let's see. He was on Jacobin again, and I always like a good Chomsky bashing these days. Because he really sucks. Like, the more you learn about Chomsky, the more irritating he gets. I found this Chomsky video. So, let's see if I can, no. His...
Do you need to send it to me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know if you were still on. We all miss Howard Zinn. Janet, we actually did talk about Howard Zinn, towards the end. Okay. Janet, super misses Howard Zinn. But, okay. No. His cringe is even like the worst thing you've ever seen. Yeah. I know, like, I wasn't so upset about Chomsky beforehand, but now I'm like, I can't tell if he's gotten worse as he's aged. Well, Zinn died before he got to be cringy. So we didn't see, so that's why they probably say only the good die young. Yeah. So only the good die young. Yeah, like before, Chomsky didn't trigger me so much because I was like, okay, he says some wrong things that are really stupid, but I guess he does tell people, and I can't make my vocal fry again to do my Chomsky imitation. It used to be really good, but somehow my voice is refusing to vocal fry. Hello. I can't hear him. Okay, well, at least you guys got to read him, even though you couldn't hear him, or if you did. So, well, he's also the second author of Manufacturing Consent. Edward Hernan is the primary author. Okay, so, yeah. With this statement, Chomsky has said nicer things about George W. Bush than he ever has about Lenin. And on top of it, this is completely inaccurate. So, what George W. Bush did is funnel lots of money to these faith-based organizations that taught a lot of abstinence education. And when you teach abstinence education, what happens is that the only thing that does is prevents condom use and not that's it, not sex usage or having sex. And so it didn't really help with the AIDS crisis. On top of that, when you dump billions of dollars to evangelicals in a poor country like Zambia or Uganda, they can go lobby for really horrible hate laws, like making homosexuality punishable by death. Yeah, so that was just wrong and bad. But then the nuance cook is that the Chomsky fans are like, oh, but he did say he's a war criminal, but you still don't got to hand it to George W. Bush, especially if it's not accurate. So that was very cringeworthy. I also remember last year when Chomsky said something really stupid like whether that Trump was worse than Hitler or something. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? It was just unhinged. He needs an intervention. Like, he needs to be banned from TV. He needs to never go on Mehdi Hassan's an interview. He just is like major sucking recently. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else did he do that's really sucky besides saying that Trump was worse than Hitler, which is ridiculous. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, apparently he called Medicare for all like eye candy or something, or children's candy or something like that. And I don't know what he said about Kuwait, but he did conspiracy theorize about Russians having nuclear backpacks in 1992 in regards to Serbia. Yeah, Kuwait was basically in 1898, I believe. The British just balkanized a little bit of the Ottoman Empire for them to build a little port. And so, and they put like some psychotic dude who called himself an emir there. So yeah, Kuwait is like a fake country. I mean, all the countries, 90% of the countries around are fake countries created by the British, French, and American alliance that I call fuck us. Yeah. Let me see if I can. If Jen, let me see. Oh, I know I can do it. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, he literally did Russians with nuclear backpacks. Let me see if I can. I know I can. I think I have that clip somewhere. Yep, I have it. Okay, let the fun begin.
It's entirely Russian so-called volunteers fighting with the Serbs.
You say so-called, you don't think they're really volunteers? I think they are.
Maybe they are.
I think there are. Not a few Russians who
but
you know, to fight.
And suppose that the segments of the military really become involved.
Oh, yeah.
Suppose they go down there with tactical nuclear weapons on their backs, which you can think of a lot of ugly possibilities.
Yeah, he literally made this crap up about Russians with nuclear backpacks being in Serbia, which is insane. Okay, well, send me the video, and this is false because there's a WikiLeaks leak from the State Department where they literally admit to doing that. Who's EJ? Is he Luna's husband? I don't know who EJ is. Well, read my article about. Okay, I have not seen his video. Okay, so it is Luna's husband. Okay. Oh my God! Yes, I got my Twitter account suspended last year because I took down. Okay. Let me explain about Iraqi Kurdistan. There is one family, the Barzani family, and they control everything in Iraqi Kurdistan. And it's like worse than Rojava. There's nothing to be done there unless it's literally like warlord central, but there's one warlord propped up by US, Israel, allies, NATO. They're called the Barzani family. And yeah, and whatever they say is law. So there's nothing about, on top of it, there's literally like nothing redeeming about Iraqi Kurdistan. I thought they got married. I think she referred to him as her husband. Let's see. You're not going to end the... Okay, well, he seems to not know. You're not going to end the empire by voting domestically. I mean, that's like the stupidest thing. The empire gets ended when you cut off the gravy train for the empire. So yeah, you're not really ending the empire. So what the bleep? Which ones? The Iraqi or the Rojava? Okay. The Rojava, well, originally the Rojava were movement started by this guy named Abdullah Öcalan, I believe, and he was actually a Stalinist. And he was fighting for the Kurds in Turkey against the government of Turkey. And he was given sanctuary in Syria to fight against Turkey. And then something happened in 1998. And so he kind of got kidnapped, and he's been in a NATO prison since then, where he's the only person on this island. But magically, since he's been on this NATO prison in an island where he's not actually allowed visitors, he somehow found Murray Bookchin and wrote all these books where he denounced being a Stalinist, and for Murray Bookchin. On top of that, after he went to prison where he's writing all these mysterious books, his organization switched enemies. They started working with Turkey to fight against Syria. And all of this is not at all suspicious to anarchists, and it does not have any red flags, which I don't understand. I did a little bit of a presentation a little while back, so let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so it's like, what? Found it. Okay. Let's see what, and let's see.
I might have to share it because I don't think when you're sharing it's going on the screen. Oh, there it is.
Okay. Unfortunate. I thought you were going to bed, Janet.
I'm still up.
Okay. So somehow, okay. Seduced. Okay. So let's see. Further examination in regards to the PKK Öcalan. Okay. Up until 1998, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him Öcalan, but I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, tell me the right way to pronounce it. Öcalan's ideology was Marxist-Leninist. He was opposed to Israel. PKK fought on behalf of Palestine and directed most of their militancy towards Turkey. Öcalan was also protected in Damascus until 1998, and after a threat of war, Syria reluctantly expelled him. In 1999, Turkey prosecuted him. They first sentenced him to death, but then in 2004, Turkey outlawed the death penalty, and then they sentenced him to life in prison. And this was what New York Times thought of him. They said he was a bad person and a terrorist and whatnot. Okay, Mr. Öcalan has been on a prison island since 1999. For 10 of these years, he was the sole prisoner on this island in Turkey. And here is this thing. He was kept in a small island in Turkey all by himself. Öcalan has had limited contact with the outside world. His own lawyers haven't seen him for 8 years. During this time, he was in a secluded Turkish prison. His ideology went from Maoist to following some libertarian in Vermont. He also has mysteriously been able to write so many revolutionary books from his prison island in Turkey, which is so weird. Curiously enough, after the Syrian war, the U.S. mysteriously started to promote his books authored from a prison in Turkey as some sort of liberation theology. The successors of Öcalan in the PKK moved from seeking a nation state from Turkey to seeking a nation state from northern Syria. And now, instead of calling the leaders of the PKK all sorts of names, the U.S. regime change outlets are doing thirst pieces about how hot the girls are. Of course, not all is well in paradise. Many former PKK fighters have quit because they've noticed the new PKK went from being anti-imperial to one of the biggest pawns. Turkey accused... Okay, and of course, if you listen to this episode, you'll understand that it's not all that's cracked up to be. Let's see. They've employed child soldiers. They've forcibly expelled Assyrians. They've been bombing Peshmerga, which is the Iraqi Kurd forces. And on top of this, Öcalan's brother denounces PKK and claims they've been trying to kill him and his family. So none of this adds up. All I say is that this requires more examination under a skeptical microscope. So, yeah, that's what I think of the PKK. Exactly. Who knows who's writing the book? None of this makes sense. So you have to, none of this adds up. So I don't know, but it should be examined further. What am I doing? Piano been drinking. Okay. And anarcho-feds imaginations. Oh, they make up crap. Oh, in Rojava, private property is protected by the Constitution. No worries. Let's see. Anything else? Was this deep enough for you? And there's a podcast episode where we go deeper. Just listen to that. Exactly. None of this makes sense. Literally none of it makes sense. No. I think there was a trucker strike in Chile right before the Allende coup, where that was backed up by the AFL-CIA. So, the Bolsheviks. Yeah, the Bolshevik Revolution. So they had a general strike right before the February Revolution, which cut off all the munitions to the soldiers in the front at World War I. And so then they had to pretend and make the Tsar abdicate and put some liberals in charge. But then they did it again. Also, the Bolsheviks did the general strike in 1905, and then they stopped all the production. So the Tsar had to do this Bulletin fake Duma. So I'd say the Bolsheviks are the best example of a successful general strike. No, I think there was one earlier in Seattle, like around World War I, maybe 1915-ish. I could be wrong. How do I pronounce that? Yeah, I just need to pronounce his name. I don't know how. Let's see. I was censored talking about John Oliver, correct. I don't understand this question. I don't understand this question. So can you re-ask this? I guess I don't understand the question.
Which one are you talking about? This
Dimitri's question.
Okay. Dimitri, re-ask that.
Let's see, what else? Oh, God. Yeah. Let's see. So I guess the first thing about theory is learning using the method of dialectical materialism to analyze everything around you, so that you're not so that you know what's going on and you can eventually figure out what is wrong. So what is wrong is it's capitalism, and then you have gone to imperialism, and yeah, and then once you go to imperialism, all these countries are like starving because the monster is like a Borg cube that just assimilates and assimilates. Oh, okay. Of course it does. What is to be done after you overthrow capitalism? It's not like life becomes magical. You need to build a state. So what are you going to build? How are you going to build it? What's the first thing you're going to build? What is the other thing you're going to build? So, and then you get a lot of more theory that's more advanced. Like you'd want to watch or listen to Xi Jinping thought about building states, because he really knows what he's doing. By the way, it's not literally what Xi Jinping thinks, but his philosophy of political economy. I know this, but I don't remember. Yeah, correct. I don't know what to say other than that is accurate. And they got a lot of about 35 or 40 extra seats. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Let's see. How? His party doesn't even get like 1%. And how? That's really stupid. But if inshallah, I hope so. I really want there to be. It would be great. Inshallah. His 1%. Okay. His supporter. So he had like his supporter. Okay. So he gave them one vote. Okay. Yapadiduda. everyone, like, you know that he was a shareholders' rights attorney who was like talking about how you can't give children food and all sorts of psychotic things. So you should just ignore Nava. I mean, no one likes him. He is just a clown who does the show for the West to like, he litigates really. Maybe it's all you always hear it in your heart. I mean, yeah, unfortunately he's in prison, but they've been too kind to him and they're letting him like live stream at this like Human Rights Foundation thingy. And I'm like, oh my God, he should be in prison and not being live streaming. Yeah, but it also makes sense on the part of a lot of Russians because they don't. You'd be surprised at what the US is capable of infiltrating to. Like, they've infiltrated to certain Maoist parties in the third world. So the worst thing to happen to them is when they fall under the axe of the US imperialism, like they did with Boris Yeltsin. No, I think it's a cold. So for them, it's better to pick a known quantity, like put the devil you know over an unknown quantity. So a lot of it is kind of, it's hard when the US is around, is what I'm going to say. Well, okay, so do we have anything else to talk about? Okay, I guess not. We need better ways to communicate why we need this show to people. Pedro Castillo, the president of Peru. I don't know. So with that, I'm just gonna. I don't know. Good question. I'm gonna screenshot this. That's a good question. I don't know. What's Russian for? Yeah. Anyways, with that, I don't know what happened with Pedro Castillo. Okay. With that, I'm just going to say Sloboda narodu smrti. Oh, hold on. What is an RM? I don't know what anarchy will become because anarchists don't even know. Oh, thank you. You're so much sweet. Okay, hold on. Somehow, can you tweet out this to Janet so I can like put you, like, I'll figure out what happened with the Substack. So thank you so much. And I'll make sure that you get a subscription on Substack. And thank you. Anarchism is not helpful in anything. Sorry, but I don't know what it's helpful in. Literally nothing. But after the alleged overthrow of capitalism, I really don't know because anarchists themselves don't know. So they have to first come up with a clear, concise idea of what they want to happen. So I don't even think anarchism really has never done any. I mean, the problem is that they see the number one villain as the existence of the state, and they can't differentiate between different kinds of states and the different functions. On top of it, a lot of anarchists in the West are just nerds who are not brave enough to like actually stand up to power. With that, I'm just going to. Oh, my favorite is look up. It's really funny. There's this YouTuber that I call Anarch. He calls himself Anarch, but it's funny how many times he's accidentally invented the Soviet Union. Like he came up with the idea of a gulag. wait, let me see if I can find it. It's hilarious. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, okay, found it. Okay. Let's see if this works. Where Janet, are you there? Still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, here. Can you play this one?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it like from Twitter. I know how to upload a video.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it, but you guys weren't hearing it the last time, so give me a minute. I should probably download it.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you so much, Red Precarian. Yeah, it's really hilarious. I mean, so twice. Okay. Thank you so much. This is so sweet. Muchas gracias. Anarchists are what? Huh? UFC wrestling? No, I have not. Unless Samira really likes MMA. She watches a lot of that. I mean, like, I can't think of the problem. Oh, yeah, MMA stuff is fun. Okay. Yeah, Samira watches a lot of it. I only secondhand follow that. I like soccer, football more. Yeah. And I love Champions League. We all have our
violators in oppressive and traumatic jail systems. Instead, sequestered citizens would rehabilitation communities, which would function democratically just the same as regular communities, but they would have to be monitored and required to undergo rehabilitative measures while they're there.
Yeah, so that's literally like gulags in the Soviet Union. Of course, I love cricket. I'm Indian. What kind of Indian would not love cricket? Well, usually I notice with new sports, you need to get an old sports fan and have them explain it to you. Sure, but they are, I mean, I don't see what use there is for people to learn how much Kautsky sucks. Yeah, I like Bangalore Royals for obvious reasons. But yeah, I love IPL, like the 2020. Okay, so 2020 is where you have 20. Oh, okay. Oh, everyone's gonna get confused. And over is 6 balls. I used to have a really good way of explaining cricket with three in a bar with three toothpicks. 6 toothpicks, but I don't have the energy. But yes, but I find the 20 over short thing a little weird. Not weird, but it's not cricket. I don't know what to say. Yeah. test matches, they're the ones that are really the best kind of cricket. Test matches are the ones where you have 2 innings and you go for 5 days. The one-day matches are... oh, by the way, I did go to the World Cup in Australia in 2015. That was so much fun. I love being in the World Cup. Okay, I saw the finals. Yeah. Anyways, I think we've confused enough Americans with cricket. Yeah, tests are the best. Okay. Oh my God, we need to change this. Yeah. The best place to watch cricket is in the Bangalore Stadium. The atmosphere is amazing. Sure, tennis is cool. Yeah, cricket live in real life is the best. Test cricket. I don't know. There's also squash, which is actually harder than racquetball, but whatever. So, anyways, Real, it's counter-revolutionary, but I don't care. Real Madrid. I know it's counter-revolutionary, and it's like a Franco supporting terrible team, and I should support Barcelona instead, and all this. Yes, I understand that. That's why I don't talk about my favorite team too often, because I'm embarrassed by it. That's a complicated thing. Sorry. I can grow to love another team eventually. Sorry about this. I'm allowed to have one bad opinion, right? And it's mostly because of Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, but whatever. I'm really... okay. It's just one bad opinion I have, and I realize how bad of an opinion is, and I'm properly embarrassed about having such a bad opinion. Thank you. Like I said, I understand how counter-revolutionary, terrible, unforgivable this is, and how bad they are, and how counter-revolutionary are, and why I need to support Barcelona instead. I totally understand that. So you don't have to tell me about that. But the heart... okay. Okay. Anyways, with that, I'm going... Yes, Canada qualified for the World Cup in cricket, but you should check the team. Everyone was like an Indian or Pakistani fail son. And that doesn't even count. Let's see. I remember it was 2010, 11, I think, the year when Canada qualified. It was so weird. I'm like, how on earth did Canada qualify? The team I feel the sorriest for is South Africa, because, oh my God, they've come so close. Like, there was this one World Cup where... Actually, no, I feel bad. No, I take that back. I feel bad for New Zealand, because this year... literally, they got the same number of runs, the same number of balls, and the same number of it was same numbers of runs, same run rate, same number of balls as England. But it was because of some stupid rule that no one really thought it was ever going to tie, where they had to get one extra run to beat England, and they didn't. And even though it was a full tie, England still won the World Cup. and it does not make. This is from 2019. Yeah, it does not make sense, and it was so bizarre. I don't know what to say, but yeah, like in the 2019 finals, England and New Zealand got the same number of balls, the same number of runs, and it was equal, but yet they had to hit one extra run to win, and England won. And if I were a conspiracy theorist, I'd say that the game is rigged to benefit England. But even with the rigged game, England only won one World Cup. So, c'est la vie. I don't know what to say about this. Anyways, now I will really... Okay. Anyways, I really should be heading out because we're really veering. Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, cricket is. I don't know what else to say. My favorite cricket player of all time. Bowler or batsman? If it's a bowler, I'm gonna say Imran Khan, and if it's a batsman, I'm going to. Oh no! Shikhar Dhawan. He's actually my favorite batsman. He's really good. And then the second one, I'm just gonna go with the easy choice, Sachin Tendulkar. Who doesn't like him? He's so good. Okay, I'm just gonna end the stream without saying, no, I'm gonna say bye and end the stream now and no more comments. Okay. Smrti fašizmu, slobodu naroda.